Hello everyone and welcome to the 12th video in our survival game series done by Brackeys. I am the CEO of Brackeys, and today we are gonna take a look at something a lot of you have requested. Enemy AI. So scripting enemies. This is a very difficult subject and it's also difficult for me to explain. It can be very cryptic and there can be a lot of different aspects to it that you have to customize to whatever kind of game you're making. But I think I have come up with something that works pretty well and something that is somewhat easy to explain and understand for you guys. I have decided to split it up into two parts though. The part that this video is going to be showing is the simple AI scripting. This is the script we're going to be making. And I've written it out beforehand just to make sure that I don't make any errors. But this is what we're going to be making today, and I'm going to explain everything, and I definitely do not expect you to understand everything in this script. It is hard. Then we have the AI script. This is a lot more advanced. No, not a lot more advanced, but it takes care of stuff like physics interaction and also some logic. With the enemy being attacked, he will get more angry and therefore chase the player more persistent. So there are some pretty cool aspects to this, though I won't include it in this tutorial because I think it's too early for you guys to learn yet. But I will include it in the assets pack though, which you can go ahead and download from our website. So let's go ahead and make a new window here so I can quickly show you where you can get them, because people have asked me over and over. So if you go ahead and open up your browser and type in brackeys.com, you'll get to our website. And the second banner here, the Unity tutorials, just click that and you can just download the assets here. It will be in a raw file, and I will include both of these, even though I will only show you this one. Alright, so let's get started. That was a long intro. Okay, so as always, I've opened up Unity, and today we are going to take a look at this guy. Before we get into that, I want to make one quick adjustment to our player. Because our player currently, he's a little short compared to a human being. So I want to make him longer. And instead of just scaling him in the Y, I want to scale the different parts separately, else we are going to scale everything that is parented to it, which means weapons, armor, and things will start looking weird. So if you're still using this default, do as I tell you here. So first of all, in the character controller, the collider here, I'm going to change the height from 2 to 3. That's a little more realistic. So you can see he's now taller. And if we go ahead and open up the player and go under the graphics, let's make sure that we can see this change in the graphics also. So we can go ahead and scale the graphics up to something like 0.75. And now you can see that the colliders and the collider and the graphics match up. And at last I want to move the main camera up. There we go. So if we go into the game view, you can see our character is now looking a lot better. And I can see that I've made a little error in the positioning of this camera. You're going to have to play around with this. Looks like I have to drag it down. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so for now our enemy is really short. This won't matter in what we're doing here. But of course you can just go ahead and scale him up. Alright, so let's create the script, the enemy script. So for now it's gonna be in a separate script from the enemy logic. And I just want to go ahead and rename the enemy logic. So click it and you will thereby open it automatically in the project. And you can go ahead and right click rename and just click the name. And I'm going to call this health. Enemy health. because that is not all the logic. Okay, so again, click the player, click add component, new script, and we're gonna call this AI simple. Create an ad, double click it to open it up in Mono Develop. This video might be split up into separate, even more parts. I'll see if that is necessary. Depends on how long this is gonna take. I really want to go in depth with this because I think most of the tutorials out there just give you a non-complete script and doesn't even explain properly how it functions. No offense to anyone, there are good tutorials too. Alright, so let's start by making a variable. And this variable is going to be called distance. And you can just go ahead and make a semicolon right after. You know what, I'll make it capitalized. So, and this is because the type is something we are going to declare later. So let's make another one. This is going to be the target, what we are going to be chasing, in this case the player, and this is going to be a transform. Then we are going to create another variable, and we are going to call this look at distance. So look at distance, and it's going to be, I would say, equals 15.0. Seems like a good number. No, you know what? Let's make this even bigger. Let's make it 25.0. I did some testing earlier and that turned out to be pretty good of a value. A new variable, attacks range. And this is going to be equal to 15.0. And yet another one, call this move speed. And this is going to be 5.0. And last one, this is going to be damping. And this is going to be equal to 6.0. Alright, so quite a few variables. I know, trust me. I'll just explain what the individual variables are going to do for us as we come along. So I just wanted to write everything out so you can see what we are going to use. Now let's create the update function. I went ahead and deleted it, but we can always just make it again. So function update, the two semicolons and the bracket keys. Okay, so now we're going to type distance equals vector 3 dot distance. Open a semicolon, a parentheses, and I think I made that mistake before too. I'm sorry about that. Target dot position, comma, transform dot position. Okay, so basically what we're doing here is we are making the distance a line. We're making it so the variable distance is what's called a vector 3. And a vector 3 is a line in 3D space. If you have ever had some more advanced mathematics, you have used it there too. So basically vectors you use for line calculation in a 3D space. And so we want to draw the line between the target position, the one we are chasing after, and our position. And so we can measure the distance from us, from the enemy to what it's chasing, in this case us. Alright, so I've made some spaces, and let's go ahead and type if distance is smaller than look at distance, brackets, renderer dot material dot color equals color dot yellow. Right, so what we're doing here is we're simply saying that we're simply making a a vector, so we are measuring the distance between the enemy and us. And we are seeing if this distance is smaller than the variable look at distance. If it is, we want the enemy to shift its color to yellow. Alright, so let's continue. Now we'll write if, oh sorry, I missed something. No, before we close off the if statement completely, we'll write one more thing in here. We'll call a function. We'll call the function look at. So, what we're doing now with this if statement, we're changing its material to see what state it's in. This is just a help for us, so we can see whether or not it's just looking at us, or frightened by us, or it's chasing us, or it's completely ignoring us. So, if the distance is smaller than the look at distance, it won't be ignoring us. We want the enemy to start looking at us. It has now detected that we are nearby, and we want it to notice us. So it will rotate to us. So let's go ahead and make the function that will make that happen. So you can see here we are calling a function. Let's make that function. Function look at, and this is of course outside of the update brackets. Open and close parentheses. Open and close brackets, and inside those brackets we want to make this. We want to type var rotation equals quaternion. And quaternion is quite a frightening word. It's not as complicated as it sounds. It's basically rotation. Not all the time, but for this it's basically rotation. Dot look rotation target dot position minus transform dot position. Close the parentheses and end up with a semicolon. So this is going to be creating a new variable called rotation, which is going to store the quaternion.look rotation target.position minus transform.position. I know this sounds quite a lot, and I won't be explaining this too much as it's a little too hard to understand for some at this point. And that's alright. I sure didn't understand this when I had watched only 11 videos, assuming that I'm the only person you watch on YouTube. But anyway, so that will store a rotation. And now we want to type transform.rotation equals quaternion.slope transform.rotation comma rotate, the variable we have just rotation again, the variable we just created, comma time dot delta time space times damping, the variable we created earlier called damping. Alright, so let me try to explain this line to you. We want our current rotation, and by R I mean the enemies. So transform.rotation, because this script is attached to the enemy, that will be the enemy's rotation, is now equal to quaternion.slope. Quaternion.slope will slowly turn when we apply the damping. So this means that we want to shift from the transform.rotation, our rotation, or the current rotation of the enemy, I should say, to pointing towards us, and it should do this in the tempo of time.delta time times damping. Damping is a value made by us, and it will basically smooth out the smoothen the animation or the movement, the rotation of the enemy. And time.delta time, that's just gonna make sure that no matter how many frames you're running at, the rotation is always gonna be the same. So this basically rotates the enemy towards us as smoothened as you would like it to be, based on the rotation we got right before with this line. Okay, so now let's go back into the function update and let's type if distance is greater than, that should be capitalized, is greater than look at distance. So now the enemy is a longer distance from us than the look at distance. That means that we want him to ignore us. So the renderer, typo, the renderer dot material dot color should now be equal to the color green. Alright, so now we have two instances. Either the enemy is within the range, the enemy's target is within the range that we have set, and then it will be looking at it, or it's not within the range and it will be ignoring with the color green. I'll just space out this a little more. And let's create yet another if statement. So now we're going to be typing if the distance is smaller than attack range. Again, the variable we created earlier. Then we want something to happen. And again, I've stored this in a function. And I've called it attack. Alright, so close it out with the semicolon. And we also wanted to change color, of course. So let's go ahead and write just above that, renderer dot material dot color. You can almost guess it by now. Equals color dot red. Now he's aggressive. Now he wanna kill us. So let's end up by making the attack function. Alright, so type function, attack, the parentheses, the two brackets, and inside them we're going to type transform dot translate, open parentheses, vector3, again the line dot forward. This time we're just using the vector3 as a direction, times move speed, times delta time. And remember, time.delta time is only there to make sure that frame rates doesn't affect anything. Alright, so what we have happening here is that we have our transform that translate vector3 dot forward times move speed times delta time. This means that the current transform is going to be affected by these. So we want the enemy to move forward, vector3 dot forward, by the move speed that we have set and not be affected by frame rate. Let's go ahead and see if we have any errors. I can see we have. Oh, so I forgot to close it off with a parentheses. So I'll just make that right before the semicolon, and we have more errors. Okay, so I found out what was making our errors. And if we go ahead and head back to the script, I forgot to delete out the pragma strict. So that should fix most of it. But we have one left, and that's because I typed render, not renderer. So now that that is fixed, let's go ahead and go back into Unity and try out our game. Oh, of course, we have to assign the target variable. So we are going to drag our player into the target variable slot under the AI simple script. Let's also go ahead and move away the enemy. Let's move him over there. Now we have some space to go on. So as you can see, first of all, it changes the shader so that he now looks green. And when we get closer, he'll shift to a yellow color. And when we get, and now he's looking at us. And when we get even closer, he'll turn red and he will start chasing us. So this is the most basic AI. You could just make a simple if statement if you're a little impatient, that when the distance is lower than a hit variable, that could be like about 3, then he should call out a damaging function on the player or just destroy the player. But we'll definitely be covering that in future tutorials. Let me just go ahead and quickly demonstrate the difference between this script and the more advanced. In the more advanced, stuff like this is fixed. So if I can just run a little faster. Oh, see, he can't fly. That's that's one thing for sure. And also, he can't go through walls. You can see him here clipping through walls. And if I was fast enough to actually run past him, I would also be able to show you him going directly through any kind of wall or terrain, which also means that he can be lost inside the terrain. And you definitely do not want that to happen in a future game that you're going to put out. It's one thing I didn't want to code in the Kill Pill game we made. I was a little lazy there. But okay, so I just want to tweak the variables. So I'm going to tweak the look at distance to 25, the attack range to 15. And the move speed is maybe a little dramatic, but we'll start with this and then go ahead and try to play it again. And there he noticed me. That's a pretty good distance. And there he goes to attack me. Yeah, that was AI scripting. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.